Francesca. You are going to be leading from Quadpay. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Thrilled to be here. I've been so inspired by all of the speakers today. So I am definitely very humbled to be part of the panel and to be sharing more information about what we're seeing in our space today. And also thrilled to be having the co-founders of Dame and Bloom Products here with me. So for everyone out there, my name is Francesca Guiden. I'm the VP of Enterprise Sales here at Quadpay. And in that capacity, I've had the great pleasure of speaking with retailers almost on a daily basis in probably the hardest year that we've ever had. So what's been interesting in our industry is that maybe just even 12 months ago, buy now, pay later was just this concept that a lot of very cool D2C brands were toying around with and really leading our field and kind of revolutionizing the way that consumers pay. Since then, we've seen this become more commonplace. We're seeing a lot of retailers adopt it more and more, and we're seeing a true shift in consumer behavior. So for the most part, what we're finding is that millennials in particular tend to favor buy now, pay later as a purchasing method because they tend to be credit averse and they tend to favor their debit cards as opposed to credit cards, which often they don't even have the ability to get. So I've invited, or we've invited Alexandra and Taryn here to join us on our panel, two of our great partners who've launched their product and who've experienced firsthand how buy now, pay later can transform their business. And certainly I'm excited to have them introduce themselves and share some of their insights for what they've seen in the past year and some of the trends that they're seeing in market and how we can use some of those learnings to help accelerate the growth into 2021. So Alexandra, maybe we can kick it off with you. I'd love for you to introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. Hi, I'm Alexandra. I am the CEO of Dame Products. We make tools for sexual wellness, which is mostly vibrators, as well as lubricants and body positioning pillows. And yeah, there's so much to say, but I will say that for us, 2020, we were definitely got to ride the at-home wellness / at-home entertainment ride. And yeah, so that I'll stop there for now.
Thanks, Alexandra. Taryn, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, hey everyone. I am CEO and co-founder of Bloom, and we started out as a direct-to-consumer business that is really focused on self-care and wellness. Like Alexandra's business, we bash taboos, but in a different way, very much in the skincare space. We're really passionate about real skin, sex ed, and we create products that you really need when you go through puberty, but also beyond. So everything from organic tampons to natural acne treatment. And we create a lot of education as well. And in terms of the last year, I mean, yeah, there's so much to say. I think in a lot of ways, we really strengthened our communication and our team, and we optimized our margins and laid a foundation, but also it's an extremely challenging year. So I'm excited to dig into that, talk about it, and how buy now, pay later has helped our business as well.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. And actually, I'd love to start off from there. You know, what's always inspired me about direct-to-consumer brands is I feel like you have to be a lot more scrappy in terms of, you know, getting out the word out to consumers and really being creative. And you direct-to-consumer brands tend to lead the market in innovation, and buy now, pay later being one of them. It really started in the D2C space, and now you're seeing more and more larger retailers adopt. So Alexandra, I'd love to start with you. You know, just looking at 2020 and the curveball that threw at us. Were there any surprise silver linings that you found, and that maybe that you hope to continue, you know, leveraging as a strategy going into 2021? Alexandra, if we can start with you, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry. You know, I had so many learnings from COVID, a lot about just also how to run the business. And also some mistakes too. You know, I will say from a marketing perspective, if there's ever a moment where our CAC drops as low as our CAC dropped, like I will find more money. And you know, like that was you know, that's not going to always happen. There's sometimes where like the wind is at your back, and honestly, it felt really weird to have the wind at your back when the world felt like it was in such a dire state. But if I could go back in time, I would be like, hey team, this instability that we're feeling that's really stressing us out, this is actually also an opportunity for us to create more stability for us. Like, let's double down right now. So I kind of wish, you know, that's definitely one of my big takeaways in learnings, is to, like, you know, notice that there's a macro trend and to ride it if you can, or to not fight it if you can't, if there's something pushing against you. There's just certain things that you can't control. So that was definitely one big learning.
Yeah, that's great. How about you, Taryn? I think you touched on it earlier that you had a lot of lessons in learning. So what do you think was the maybe top 3 big lessons from 2020 that you'll be leveraging going into 2021 and beyond?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for us, like I said, it was an opportunity to really become a stronger team. And before COVID hit and everything, we did 1 day a week remote. So every Wednesday, everyone would work from home. So we kind of had a rhythm, but I think becoming a fully remote team, we wanted to just ensure we could create connectedness amongst the team. And also just because there's no more boundaries really of work and life, with a lot of people working from home, like what are the things we could do to make that a better experience, and also one that was sustainable. So we started to do like daily wellness check-ins where everyone would share how they were feeling out of 10, what they were grateful for, before we even started to talk about the work stuff. And I just feel like that brought, sorry about the background noise. It just really brought the team a lot closer together, and it just allowed us to get to know one another, and also our energy levels and fears and everything we were all going through, like Alexandra said, during such an unstable time. So that's something that I think that humanness is like, I feel like we always had it, but you know, not being in the office, we can really take that deeper level with us going forward as the company grows. So that would probably be my biggest takeaway as a team. And then on the business side, I think it just kind of shows you all of the gaps. They're just more exposed in a way where, you know, it just kind of amplifies anything that's positive and negative in the business, just like it amplified anything positive and negative that was happening in the world. And so that allowed us to really double down operationally. We shifted warehouses, we shifted some of our manufacturers to improve margins, and we really just improved the basic unit economics of our business. And so I think that was really an amazing time for Bloom as a company, because we feel like it's really preparing us for the next level of scale.
Yeah, that's great. And would you say, Taryn, sorry, just you said a lot of great things there, that the moments of gratitude is certainly something that I do even personally. And I think it just makes my day so much better. I wake up smiling and happy, and it's such a small thing. It sounds almost cheesy when I first started doing it, but I found it has a remarkable impact. And hearing kind of the team cohesiveness and having that, you know, impact the overall business, I think it translates. So that's really wonderful to hear. When you're talking about the 2020 kind of amplifying the weak points and the strengths of your business, what would you say were those weak points that maybe you weren't aware of that just suddenly were brought to the surface, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're a very young brand, so we're turning 3 this June. So the last 2 years, or the last 2.5 years, we were very much focused on top line growth. So when I say weak points, I mean, I think for where we were at, they were very expected, but maybe just because we hadn't focused on efficiency, it really allowed us to then take a pause to do that. And then the other thing in terms of strong points, where we're very strong at Bloom is community, and it's where we've always been very strong. So then we just doubled down on community, and we were there for our customers. We did like a PPE drive. We kind of just reached out to individual customers. We sent flowers. We did all the things that we could do to just be there for our customers, and just even doing wellness check-ins with them, and just empowered our customer experience team to go above and beyond, and tried to send out emails that were more like content and just really asking them what they needed from us rather than pushing products. We actually didn't launch any products during the pandemic in terms of like core products to our line at all, because we just didn't feel that it was the time to do so.
That's great. And how about you, Alexandra? Were there any kind of surprise weaknesses that the 2020 brought to light, and how did you handle some of those challenges that came up?
I learned so much. I think something like a tension that like now I'm bringing with me, especially like I'm about to go on maternity leave, so is creating plans around with so many unknowns, I think what I noticed is that the team is often looking towards to me to create stability. And I felt very much like I have no idea what's going to happen, right? Like, this is definitely something I've never personally experienced before. I watched like documentaries on 1918 flu, like there was something I could do to prepare for this moment. And what I learned was that, you know, you can create clarity and plans in acknowledging instability. So we would have a plan and we would just acknowledge that this plan can change, but this is the current plan. And that really, you know, we're not going to go into the office for the next 2 months, and we're going to circle back in a month to discuss where we're at, you know? So I think that creating, just getting better at, like for me, just giving clarity when I can also acknowledge that, like, I don't really know, was really helpful. And I think that's also just a key when you're just running a startup, because there's so many unknowns, there's so many variables that pop up all the time, and having an agile team, and creating like a container, like a safe space for them to understand that you can't possibly know all the answers, and we have to work together as a team to figure it out. That I'll definitely stick with us. Also, like to Taryn said, we're fully remote now. We don't intend on going back to the office in the same way, figuring out ways that we can continue to connect, stay in touch, encourage each other to go for walks outside, just taking care of each other, even virtually, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think it's just a human element, because at the end of the day, you know, we have to remember we're all going through the same struggle, and remembering that, you know, it's just human to human, and we have to acknowledge that we have our, you know, our strengths, our failings, and it's okay. It's okay when things aren't perfect.
Yeah. I mean, we also, I don't know if this happened to other people, you know, it's like both so grateful for Slack to be able to kind of have like office water cooler conversations. And then we all hit a point where we're like, we need better Slack boundaries. Like, you know, figuring out the
I'm
best
still trying to learn that.
Yeah. Just like creating clarification that like, you do not need to respond, like how to turn off your notifications, like when you're expected to respond, when you're not expected to respond. Because that was just, it's both great because it allowed us to stay so connected. And then it also kind of, I think, created anxiety because people were asking people to do things more often in Slack than they were used to. And like, do I need to get back to my manager immediately? So first, it's just always just creating clearer boundaries for everybody, about how we're going to work digitally was really important. Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to pivot a little bit here, because I'd love to hear your take on the buy now, pay later space, because certainly here at Quadpay, we've seen just remarkable growth in digital. You know, there's just been heightened focus on consumer shopping online, but now we're also starting to see folks start to go back into brick and mortar. So Taryn, I'd love to hear from you. You know, how do you think buy now, pay later impacted your business, especially with the challenges of 2021? And how do you think it's going to play into the overall consumer journey going into this coming year?
Yeah, a good portion of our customers are Gen Z, and they're quite a bit younger. So a lot, like our price point is pretty affordable. All of our products right now are under $40 US. Most of them are under $30 US. So having buy now, pay later honestly allows like more of our audience base and our customer base to get additional products in their cart, you know, based on our price point. And so it'll kind of allow people to buy bundles rather than buying just one product, or buying the whole routine rather than just buying the acne treatment, which is really great for Bloom, because for us, the retention is stronger when people try more than one product and use them together. They're just also more effective that way. And so I think that's been really amazing. I mean, in terms of just accessibility, we've heard from a lot of our customers that it's just nice to have the option, I think, especially if they're gifting, they want to buy like additional products, or if we have a promo going on. So I feel like it's been very much normalized in maybe spaces that are more expensive, like for example, Peloton, or, you know, products that are a bit on the pricier side, but it actually makes a ton of sense for products like ours as well, especially, like I said, for our Gen Z customers.
Yeah, I love that. It makes the consumer more likely to add on other items to their basket that maybe they weren't going to try, just because it allows them to still spend the same amount of money that they had intended coming to your site, but they're now able to do so in a more responsible way. Alexander, have you noticed anything similar with your customers and the way that they're transacting?
Yeah, I mean, we sell a durable good. So, I sell you a product that's going to last you a few years. So being able to spread out those payments that are a little bit more in line with spreading out how long you really get to use the products, I think is really, really helpful. We want to make the products more accessible, but especially since we sell such a durable product, like lowering price point isn't the best way for me to make it more accessible and still have the quality of product that we would like to be putting out there. Especially if we consider like the other things millennials care about, which is making things that are environmentally friendly. For us, that's very much about making a really quality product. So Quadpay really allows us to.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think you touched on a really interesting point and something that other retailers have shared with us, which is this kind of perception of a discount. So to your point, you don't want to lower the cost of your product because it is a high value item, but buy now, pay later has a similar effect of giving that consumer the feeling that they're getting a discount because they're able to break out the purchase into payments.
And if you think about it too, like, I mean, whether it's consumable or durable, you get to experience the value over time, but historically we ask you to pay for the full value right up front. So if we can kind of ease the cash flow, right? Like I know in that last session, people were talking about financing and terms, and it's really similar. You're just easing the ability for somebody to come and like experience your value by being able to spread out the payments over time. And can be really change the way somebody behaves and whether or not they're going to purchase your product. So for us, it's amazing.
Absolutely. And Alexander, you touched on this earlier when you had mentioned that you saw your cost of customer acquisition go lower. What would you attribute that to? And would you say that has buy now, pay later had any impact on that? Like, I've heard from our own retailers that they see buy now, pay later, not really just as a budgeting tool for their consumers and widening accessibility, but also it's now becoming a new source of new customer acquisition. Would you say that that's in line?
I'd say it's in line, though. What I was talking about earlier was definitely just the impact of the pandemic on our CAC versus buy now, pay later. I'd have to go and look to a little bit more. And it would be sorry, I'm also in a city with lots of loud noise around me. I'd have to go and look more. And it would be hard to tell because like there's so many variables that impact our CAC that, I have to do a little bit of a deep dive, but I can tell you that it has lowered our conversion rate, which is going to ultimately impact our CAC. It just gives people more options.
Yeah, absolutely. And Taryn, have you noticed anything similar in terms of new customer acquisition, and maybe not just buy now, pay later, but any other avenues that you've deployed to increase brand awareness and to increase new customers coming to your site?
Yeah, apart from buy now, pay later, you mean?
Yeah, or have you seen that with buy now, pay later?
We've definitely seen conversion go up with buy now, pay later for sure. I think this is like a little bit of a technical one for founders, but if anyone uses like upsells on their website, we've actually found that to be really effective this year. And then in terms of other new channels for us, SMS has been a big one for sure. We're very sparing with it. It's super intimate channels. I try to only text people the way I would want to be texted by a brand, and we keep that, a couple times a month maximum, and we're not just like blasting out offers. For the most part, actually it's only a few times a quarter, but we really save it for special things and early access, things like that, and use it as a trust building channel and just like a community building channel. So SMS has been huge for us. In terms of other channels, I mean, we work with a lot of like micro influencers. So Bloom, we've never really paid influencers. And I think because community is so important to us, building a network of micro influencers, especially in like the Gen Z community, has been probably one of our most successful channels to date.
Yeah, that's great. And then thinking back on when you did decide to take on these new kind of the upsells, all these new features on your website, or even buy now, pay later, and partnering with Quadpay, what was the thought process behind that, and what kind of inspired you to pull the trigger on these types of strategies?
Yeah, did you want me to go first or?
Sure. Yeah, that would be great, Taryn. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we try to like really talk to our audience and do a lot of discovery, and it just comes down to like all of us as consumers, like we prefer options. I think these days, especially when it comes to payment, and for myself as a consumer, like I didn't shop a lot during the pandemic. Sorry, 1 second. But when I did, I really appreciated sometimes just the brand nudging you with some important information. So like what's most popular, what we recommend this, why we recommend it. Most people go for this product if they have this need. I think that's just really helpful because the consumer marketplace is so noisy. And so I think, even just something as simple as a quiz where it's like answer these questions, it helps to kind of personalize things a little bit. And so with the upsells, they're not random. The upsells that we have created on the site are very much like, if you're interested in this product, you're likely also interested in this product, and that's based on data from other customers. And so that's why we implemented it. It's really just thinking about the journey. And another thing we do pretty often is like user testing. So we'll sign up. There's a couple different websites you can use for user testing, and we'll talk to our customers. I do like call downs with customers once a month as well to get those insights. And so all those upsells that we add on the site or like modifications we make to our funnel are usually based on discovery.
Awesome. And how about you, Alexandra? What was the thought process for the strategies that you've deployed? And I'm personally just curious, when you decided to partner with Quadpay, what was the impetus for launching that option on your website?
It was just like a no-brainer for us. I really to me, I thought that the offering just made so much sense. And as we were constantly thinking about how we could be more accessible, it made us more accessible. It was, sometimes there are things that take me a long time to make a decision on, and there's certain things that just don't take that long at all. And this one was really simple. It just really immediate aligned our values and what we were trying to do as a brand. So we gave it a go, and here we are.
And we're very happy to have you. And so that actually brings up a question for me. It's a very common hesitation that I get from retailers when we start to discuss buy now, pay later. And it's this concept of cannibalization, So I think Taryn, you and Alexander have both touched on how buy now, pay later and all these other strategies are really widening accessibility. It's providing options for the consumer. It's really adding value to your product, So what would you say to that kind of pushback from some retailers? And they're saying, oh, this is a consumer that's going to, transact with me anyways and just cannibalizing with buy now, pay later. Have you seen that occurring? Or do you think that that's, not really that retailers shouldn't be concerned about that? And Alexander, I'll start with you. Or Taryn, I'll start with you since you just unmuted.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, Alex.
That's, to me, that's not cannibalization, right? Like if they were just going to purchase from you anyway, that's not the same thing as them as cannibalizing sales. And I think that, so you can just test, like A/B test or do a test and see how it improves your conversion rate, because that will tell you whether or not you are in fact getting more customers than you would have. It's true, yeah, you might lose some customers who would have paid full price that are now going to Quadpay, but it's worth it for the upside.
Great. And Taryn, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so too, because it's, both conversion rate factors in here, but also like average order value and how much people are spending. And I think we look at everything. We try to look at the whole funnel, including retention. And so for us, we know at Bloom that if you buy more than one product, you're more likely to retain. So that in itself kind of negates the cannibalization concern.
That's awesome. We have a question from the audience here, and I'd love for you ladies to touch on this, but Mimi is asking, can either of you share what percentage increase in conversion rate you saw from using Quadpay roughly? Taryn, I don't know if you have those numbers handy or even just a ballpark.
I think that I would have to pull that. So I don't have those numbers handy, but I think for us, like I said, we look at conversion rate, but it's not the only metric we look at. So what's more important for us is average order value and retention. And I don't have the percentages handy. I would have to pull those, but they've both definitely gone up with buy now, pay later.
Awesome. And Alex,
I also don't have that data handy, which is frustrating. And I wish I did, because it's a great question. And I also want to like double click on what Taryn's saying about conversion rate not being the only metric. If it's, you know, we look at average order value as well. And it does make sense that it would increase your average order value. So kind of seeing how it performs there. And I think the other thing is to like really know this data, to like truly know it, and have to A/B test it, which is a lot. Sure. But yeah, it's a great question. And if I'm slacking some people right now to see if they can pull the data. So if I get some information on.
Mimi, we'll share our contact info, and would be happy to share some more info with you after. Just me anecdotally, because I mean, I talk to retailers on a daily basis, both our existing partners and some prospects. And what we typically see is a double-digit lift in both conversion and average order value. And then Taryn, you bring up a really great point, which is retention rate. So in addition to increasing those two very important KPIs, we also see the stickiness and loyalty increase with the consumer, just because you are giving them another option. They feel really good about making that purchase. They feel less guilty about completing it. To me, that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of selling the product and being part of this organization. I think I'm running short on time, but ladies, I'd love to close off with just maybe some of your thoughts on, maybe your top tip going into the rest of this year, post-COVID. What would you say would be the one thing that founders and business owners should be thinking about to make sure that they're prepared for what comes next?
I don't know. I feel like it might not be a good one, but I do think like really embracing instability and uncertainty as like a part, like that was always there. So just continuing to like acknowledge that, and instead of like looking for stability and trying to like grasp onto it, like really embracing instability as just part of life, I think is my motif for the pandemic year. And I think it's a really helpful life view.
I love that. All right, Taryn, do you have one? And
yeah, I'll just say like kind of what I've been thinking about, and if it's helpful to anyone, then great. But I think one thing I've been thinking about, especially talking to my coach, is like, as the world opens up, things are going to, they're going to change, but they're not necessarily going to go back to what they were. And there is no quote unquote normal. And I think we've all been talking about that for a long time. So I think as founders, it's really important to just think about the world that we're shaping and how we want to contribute to that. And so one thing that like always helps me, especially to just like, I guess like, sorry, the noise, chunk things down and be able to tackle different aspects of the business, but also be like really tied to our larger mission, is just to talk to customers, do discovery, basic surveys. Sometimes you just learn so much of what people need. And so I think really just thinking about the change you want to see in the world and how your business plays a role in that. And then that way you're always really tied to your why. And it just keeps you motivated through the tough times when things get hard, especially working from home.
I think those are both great pieces of advice. And if I can, not to simplify it too much, but keep the customer first and don't sweat the big stuff, I think. And those are two very good things to keep in mind. Certainly something that I know I have to keep top of my mind on my everyday life. But thank you so much, ladies. And thank you for our audience for joining our conversation today. We've shared our contact info here in the chat. Please reach out if you guys have any questions. We'd love to speak with you, especially if you're interested in potentially trying out Buy Now, Pay Later. But Michelle, I will hand it back over to you.
Ladies, you're incredible. Thank you so much. So much authentic wisdom and, overall feedback in terms of what you guys have been through. So thank you.